we consider Gaza by 2020 to be an unlivable place.
فيش كهرباء، فيش مية، فيش.
طبعا احنا بنحاول نبتكر ونجتهد بانفسنا.
المواطن الفلسطيني عنده طموح وعنده بغامر كثير.
الحياة ستستمر بإذن الله عز وجل، وليس عن طريق الأمم المتحدة التي تقرر أنها تستمر الحياة أو لا.
It's an incredibly soothing sound, listening to the sea. It brings a welcome calm to many of us. It's early morning and the swell calls local surfers out of bed.
فالشيء الوحيد اللي بقدر أمارس فيه الحرية هي ركوب الأمواج. ركوب الأمواج بتعني لي الحرية.
But their lives are far from calm. This beach is actually the Gaza Strip, a home they love and hate at the same time.
احنا محطوطين في قلب سجن. في البحر بننسى المعاناة، ولما نطلع من البحر بنتذكر المعاناة.
It's hard to forget about war when you've lived through 3 in 6 years.
أكيد أولاً لو أنا بتزلج بكون في عقلي في الزنانة. ما فيش حاجة غير الموت يعني لصوت الزنانة. لقيت بدها تقتل ولد، بدها تقتل بنت، مرة.
And so begins another day in this besieged city, where 1.9 million people are trapped in one of the most densely populated areas in the world. I haven't come here to speak to politicians or soldiers. This is a story about everyday families and how they cope in what some call hell. And this is their hell. Wars that have left thousands dead and many more injured. The violence was triggered in 2006. Hamas took power with an election promise to destroy neighbouring Israel. Israel retaliated, sealing the borders, controlling who and what can come and go. The economy's crippled, and Gaza has the highest unemployment rate in the world.
Conflict might not be immediate here, but it's inevitable because all the root causes of the conflict have not been addressed. It's just a matter of time. And people almost look at their watches a bit and say, it's almost 2 years since the last conflict. When is the next one going to come?
Gaza is a place where locals talk of time in wars, not years. This is a place where 4 gun rounds can go off, and a small child doesn't even pause or look up. It's a place where people are losing the ability to do the most basic things, like feed themselves. 57% of Gazans don't know where their next meal will come from, with their once fertile farmlands stolen by war.
So this is the buffer zone, yeah?
من دون أي أسئلة أو سابق إنذار ممكن يتم إطلاق النار. صحيح إنه المنطقة هذه خطر، يعني في ناس بيروحوا على شغلهم يعني في الايام العاديه، لكن لما يكون في شك او في خطر او في شيء ما يعني بيسيبوا الموسم كله، ممكن الموسم كله ينحرق، القمح والزراعه تنحرق وتنضرب، احسن ما يروح هو.
I'm traveling to meet a man whose family has farmed here for generations. But now their land lies on the barren border, the deadly kill zone between Gaza and Israel. Iyad and his boys show me the lonely ruins of what used to be their family home.
الخاصات لما دخلت المكان برضو بدأت باشرت بإطلاق النار، ضربوا هنا رصاص حي في الحيط.
It's been destroyed twice by the conflict. Looking around his house, I learn how lucky he was to escape.
الضربة الأولى كانت في هذه الشقة. الأوضة هذه كانت العيلة كلها موجودة. حلفنا الحظ إنه بعد ما انسحبنا بس ب5 دقائق إنه نضرب المنزل. لو تأخرنا 5 دقائق لكان العيلة كلها استشهدت.
Iyad is a man who finds little to smile about.
اليوم حياتي أصعب من حياة آبائنا وأجدادنا، لأنه حياتنا اليوم أصبحت حياة حصار، حياة دمار، حياة إغلاق كلياتها، معاناة. شايف برضو فيش بشير خير حتى نحكي كرؤية مستقبلية لأبنائنا. أنا شايف الجيل القادم حياته أصعب.
But I also learn that Iyad is determined. In Gaza, 900,000 people rely on food aid, but not Iyad. His land was stolen by war, taken in the ongoing conflict between Hamas and Israel. But farming runs in his family, so he was not about to give up. He's found a way to grow his lettuce without his farm.
المواطن الفلسطيني عنده طموح وعنده بغامر كثير. نترك شعب وبلد متكامل عدد سكانها قرب على 2 مليون نسمة بدون أمن غذائي. وعن الشغل وعن الاستثمار وعن العمل حيموتوا بدون حرب، حيموتوا جوع.
Good.
Good.
Here's how it works. Instead of the soil that once cultivated his crops, Iyad set up a simple yet clever system. He recycles nutrients from these aquaponic fish living in his backyard. Their wastewater fertilizes and harvests soilless crops. It means these lettuces don't actually need any land to grow.
غزة أصبح بحاجة ماسة إلى هذه الزراعة بسبب نقص المياه العذبة وبسبب الزحف العمراني وقلة توفير قلة الأراضي الزراعية.
But despite Iyad's efforts, life here is getting worse. Experts call it de-development. Basically, it means this place is going backwards. Before the blockade, freshly caught fish were one of Gaza's biggest exports. These families have been fishing off the coast for generations, but now they're trapped inside a 9-mile inclusion zone. As we set off from the seaport, we pass a flotilla of protesters. They're rallying in support of political prisoners in Egypt. Our camera doesn't go unnoticed. Hamas wants to know who we are. Soon we're crashing through the swell, surrounded by a fleet of trawlers, keen to show us how dire their catch has become. but our voyage is short-lived.
We've been looking forward to seeing what it's like for the fishermen here in Gaza, and we've been turned around by police. We just left the harbour and 3 police in a speedboat actually chased us down and flagged us back to port. We're not really sure what's going on.
We're escorted back to the harbour and the trawler is impounded. Despite having the right paperwork, I'm told Hamas is wary of us filming in the port because it's rumoured that weapons and contraband are often smuggled through here. Back in port, I meet some fishermen auctioning off their meagre catch. It's another slow day at the market.
لما يقبضوا هدول وهدول بحاكوا البلد شويه، طبعا في ناس العاديه بتشتري في لقوس وذاك، وفي ناس بتشتري السردين، كل واحد على وقته. يعني في صدق ناس بقطاع غزه إلا سنين ما دخلتش مصاري، ما بعرفش كيف عايشها.
As Hamas brigades march down the street outside, I'm reminded that even when you're filleting a fish, conflict with Israel is always simmering. Many resent Hamas's intrusive presence. I keep getting told by the UN that if nothing changes here, Gaza will be unlivable by 2020. That's only a few years away. But could that really happen? Ahmad is a mushroom farmer. He's converted his roof and part of his house into a small factory. He uses rainwater and a homemade culture to grow all of these mushrooms. I ask him what he thinks about the grim UN prediction. The United Nations says that if things don't change here, Gaza will be uninhabitable by 2020. Do you think that's true?
الحياة ستستمر بإذن الله عز وجل وليس عن طريق الأمم المتحدة التي تقرر أنها تستمر الحياة أو لا.
Ahmad is what resilience looks like in Gaza. He started this project as a way to provide food for his family. It's now become a full-time job.
إنه من خلال هذا المشروع يمكن أن يكفل أو يضمن توفير اللوازم والاحتياجات الضرورية للعائلة وتعيش بكرامة وبحرية يعني في داخل البلد. أنا بتكلم عن كشخص يعني لمعيشة الأسرة بشكل جيد إن شاء الله تعالى أفضل من إنه الواحد ما يكون قاعد ما فيش عنده عمل. يبارك الله فيك. الله يبارك فيك. السلام عليكم. وكما قيل في المثل لا تعطيني سمكة بل علمني كيف أصطاد.
As the sun sets, I randomly stumble across a group of young guys who've taken over a building site.
It's pretty amazing how much fun you can have with some building sand. An old tire. These kids have been smiling and laughing all afternoon. You wouldn't know that just across the road all these buildings are riddled with bullet holes.
Oh, fantastic.
They don't have much, but they're making the most of what they do have.
طبعا في ظل وضع الحصار اللي احنا موجود في قطاع غزة الامكانيات صعبة وضئيلة جدا تفوت على القطاع، بس طبعا احنا بنحاول نبتكر ونجتهد بأنفسنا.
Playing in the sand, it's easy to get caught up in the infectious energy and optimism of Gazans. but it can distort the reality of living in a war zone. A reality that you can't escape, even on your wedding day. Nothing makes that clearer than a visit to the UN warehouse. Few can afford to shop in the supermarkets here. Over 500,000 Gazans live in refugee camps. This is how most in Gaza survive.
We're providing food assistance to over 900,000 people. That's over half of the entire population of Gaza.
Everyone receives the same parcel. Inside there's rice, sugar, lentils, chickpeas, flour and sardines. Meet Muwan. He's come to collect the family's 3-month supply of food. I travel home with the father of 3. He invites me inside, where I meet Muwan's wife, Nada, and his mother, Usra. Muwan tells me how desperate they find their lives in Gaza.
مثلا بتلاقي فرصة عمل ما فيش لك فرصة عمل لولا هالكابونة اللي بناخدها من الوكالة لا الواحد يموت من الجوع يعني لو من غير بنقدرش كمان نشتري فعلا لو أنا بدي يخص علي أي شغلة يعني لو بدي يخص علي طحين مش راح أقدر أشتري لو كيس واحد.
طب هذا ليش هذا؟
هذه للسلطة.
Food is scarce, but it's still a big part of family life.
بالمعلقة أحطها عليه. عملت عدس مجروش من اللي استلمناه من المؤن، طبعاً بتأثر باستمرار باستمرار باستمرار، وحد بيزهق منها باستمرار.
Everyone has a favorite cooking show, even here in Gaza. The ingredients are the same every week.
فالأطفال بتمل من نفس الروتين يعني هيك أنا حابة القناة عشانها كل حاجتها بسيطة وخفيفة.
The show's produced by the UN. It aims to bring back some dignity and creativity to food rations.
ممكن انتك تعمل الأكل تبعهم من قلب البيت.
سلمي ايديك يا مسهر. والله العدس زاكي.
Their daily struggle comes down to unemployment. Even with a university degree, it's hard to get a job. But one determined group hasn't given up. They've built Gaza's very own version of Silicon Valley. Inside, I meet members of the Gaza Sky Geeks. They get around the blockade through the World Wide Web.
Some countries, people say the internet is making the world smaller, but for Gaza, the internet is making the world bigger.
So big.
There are 16 hardware and software developers in this building who, despite their situation, are trying to make their way in the tech worlds. Power shortages are an everyday occurrence. So Omar Badawi has invented a way to charge your phone anytime through an invention called walk and charge.
Okay, it is a small device. You can hold it, and when you are walking, you generate an amount of electricity that can help you to be charged your mobile anywhere, anytime. I think it will be the next revolutionary device in the world.
As Omar walks off to charge his phone, he leads us to the city's main square. There I meet budding entrepreneur Tamar, a teenager who charges younger kids 20 cents for a ride in his pushcar.
بساعد أهلي ويعني عشان نأمن مستقبلنا وهذا وحاجات عادية يعني مش أكتر بالبيت. من حقنا نعيش زي بقية العالم وزي طفل وهذا بدنا نعيش برضه.
I spot a crowd gathering around a young man in a wheelchair. Turns out he's a rapper who goes by the name of MC Sari. We chat and he tells me he's paralysed from being shot 3 times by Israeli soldiers.
We was stealing in the Palestinian area. I got 3 bullets, my cousin got 6. 5 in left leg and 1 abdomen here. Just kids, you know, 16. It's nothing, you know. We're not terrorists, we're not bad guys. We didn't have guns, anything. No, just playing, messing around, you know.
It would be easy for him to be frustrated or angry, but instead he clings to hope.
What would you like to do? What's your dream?
I want to live in peace.
I came to Gaza to meet everyday Palestinians, and they've taught me that it's ingenuity and resilience that makes this place feel so alive despite the war. The surfers I met earlier are cooking up a freshly caught meal. At first, it looks like a social gathering, but I realise this self-sufficiency is out of necessity. They work as lifeguards during the day, but because of the situation in Gaza, they haven't been paid for months.
بحكم شغلنا في البحر منقذين إلا إنه يعني بكون عندنا بعض الشباك بتساعد في يعني في رزقنا وفي نجيب أكل لأطفالنا زي أسماك صغيرة. وإذا ما صدناش بنقعد نعيط بالعكس.
Despite the optimism, it's hard not to be cynical. Like everyone here, I'm unsure about Gaza's future.
To think that in a few years' time, Gaza will be no longer actually viable for humans to live with any kind of dignity, it's actually quite heart-wrenching.
The very morning after this beach meal, Hamas and Israel exchanged fire, followed by airstrikes. One local proudly told me, Gaza's resilience makes it the best worst place in the world. But if the UN is right, this battered, narrow strip could be living on borrowed time.